Join me as I dive into a wild scenario and challenge myself to imagine what it would be like if Trump really took over the world. We're living in a world where global politics are more unpredictable than ever, and one name that's been making headlines for years is Donald Trump. Love him or hate him, there's no denying that Trump has had a significant impact on the world stage, and it's worth exploring what would happen if he took his influence to the next level. Many critics argue that Trump's leadership style is fundamentally at odds with the principles of democracy and international cooperation. His divisive rhetoric, tendency to disregard diplomatic norms, and questionable business dealings have all raised concerns about the potential risks of his presidency. Moreover, his administration's policies on issues like trade, immigration, and climate change have sparked controversy and protests worldwide. It's not hard to see why many people are worried about the implications of Trump's leadership on global stability. Take, for example, the way he's handled international trade agreements. By imposing tariffs and sparking trade wars with major economies, Trump has created a sense of uncertainty that's rattled markets and threatened the global economy. Or consider his stance on climate change, which has been widely criticized for being inadequate and even dismissive of the scientific consensus. The consequences of such actions, if left unchecked, could be catastrophic. Further, some of Trump's most vocal critics have accused him of authoritarian tendencies, pointing to his attacks on the media, the judiciary, and political opponents as evidence that he's willing to undermine the very institutions that are meant to hold him accountable. It's a frightening prospect, and one that has many people wondering what would happen if Trump's influence went unchecked. Imagine a world where Trump's brand of populist nationalism has become the dominant ideology, where he's free to pursue his agenda without opposition or constraint. It's a world where international institutions are weakened, treaties are torn up, and global cooperation is a distant memory. In this scenario, the world would likely become a much more fragmented and unstable place, with nations retreating into their own spheres of influence and pursuing their own interests at the expense of others. The consequences would be far-reaching, from the collapse of the global economy to the rise of new conflicts and tensions. Take, for instance, the ongoing trade war between the U.S. and China. In this new world order, it would likely escalate into a full-blown economic conflict, with both sides imposing harsh tariffs and sanctions that would devastate industries and livelihoods around the world. The repercussions would be felt in every corner of the globe, from the factories of Asia to the farms of Europe. Another scenario could be the rise of a new era of nationalism, where countries turn inward and focus on their own interests, rather than working together to address common challenges. It's a world where the very idea of global cooperation and collective action becomes a distant memory, and where the international community is powerless to stop the spread of conflict, poverty, and inequality. One key moment that showcases Trump's impact on global politics is his decision to withdraw from the Paris Climate Accord. It was a move that sparked widespread outrage and disappointment, and it marked a turning point in the global response to climate change. By rejecting the international consensus and abdicating American leadership, Trump sent a powerful signal that the world's most powerful nation was no longer committed to addressing this existential threat. In doing so, Trump not only undermined the global effort to combat climate change, but also created a power vacuum that other nations have struggled to fill. The consequences of this decision are still being felt today, from the rise of wildfires and extreme weather events to the growing sense of desperation and urgency among climate activists. So what does it all mean? In this hypothetical scenario, Trump's actions would have far-reaching consequences for the world, from the rise of new conflicts and tensions to the collapse of the global economy and the undermining of international institutions. It's a world where the very fabric of global politics is torn apart, and where the consequences of Trump's actions are felt for generations to come. That's all for today's video, folks. Thanks for joining me on this wild ride. What do you think about Trump's influence on global politics? Let me know in the comments below. And if you want to explore more about the shifting global landscape, be sure to check out my video on the rise of new global powers.